there's all these inefficiencies in our rhythms.
And that's before you write anything at all. It's like, what's the core question? So I'm trying to figure out how to kind of speed up my process. And so I'm trying to produce as many videos as fast as I can. And I'm historically very, very slow at it, still am. I get into this process, this loop over and over and over again, where I have 90% of a script and then I add one more idea that breaks the whole thing. And so I have to change the thesis. And then I have to re-edit the thing because the thesis is like a better thesis, but it doesn't completely fit. And so I have to change the script. Because the other problem I have too is I just, this is like how I talk too. I just like ramble on, right?
No, you don't.
Hey everyone, it's Eric Wynn. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. A couple nights ago, one of my friends, Kevin, called me super randomly asking for some advice for his YouTube video making workflow. We ended up unpacking script writing, titling, pacing, lots of little details, my thoughts, process behind the scenes, lots of stuff I don't usually talk about, get the chance to talk about in these YouTube videos. I have lots of conversations like this behind the scenes. Let me know if you like this, learn from this type of content. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so there's different pieces here. The script writing part is taking a long time. You find yourself restarting or reworking your thesis statement a lot, and you want to improve your workflow, your process.
Yeah, like my process right now is 50% of all the time I'm spending is rewriting the script over and over and over again before I film the talking head.
Right.
And then it's like redoing the edit over and over and over again.
I mean, are you still spending like 30 hours on video?
At least. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, so that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, and then another thing that's interesting is it's really hard to say what you want to say clearly on your first try.
Yeah.
Like you sort of have to vomit out ideas before it turns into something nice. But you also don't want to wait 12 million years for you to vomit out all the things that you need, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I think would really help would be to script out less. You have a lot of...
Wait, keep talking.
I don't know if you do this, but when I script things, like I start micromanaging a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be micromanaged. You know the idea, and instead of being like, I'm gonna sit down and write down 20 different versions of the same sentence to like perfect it, instead just sort of like turning on the camera and knowing like this is what my idea is and then throwing it at the camera. Like start with a baseline concept, but sort of that tweaking, retooling process you do in the script writing.
Yeah.
Do that instead like on camera, because then you can actually emote and like you'll start hearing it out loud and you can improvise faster than if you are micromanaging it on a document. I mean, that's because I personally micromanage the writing like a lot. And oftentimes, as you said, some of the things I micromanage, I end up deleting later. You know, like I did 20 versions of a sentence and then that whole paragraph needed to be removed, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, you know? So it gets rid of inefficiencies a lot there. No matter how much I perfect a script, I always end up, it changes when you actually start filming. So instead of wasting all that time trying to get to the concept of a perfect script, right? Just accepting that it's more important to get the ideas, the general structure, like this first, this second, this third. And also like if you have a catchy line or two that really like nails a point home, you write that down. Right. Or sometimes you discover that in that sort of like throwing it at the camera approach that I like.
Yeah. So would you, go ahead.
The things that I think are important to write down are the general structure, the general points. And if you have those catchy lines, like those TED Talky lines, I don't want you to survive, I want you to thrive, you know. Like those types of things, you put that in your notes so you don't forget it.
Yeah. So I wonder if it's kind of how we process differently. But so one thing, so I used to kind of do it like that, where I had an outline and I would just like kind of talk.
Yeah.
And what gets me really kind of stuck is like, number one, I'll kind of be going on a tangent and I'll stop myself and I'll try to restart that sentence, but I don't remember what the connective tissue was between the old sentence and the new sentence. So I forget if I just ended it with like a therefore or a like, or do I need to add like a because or however. And so like I'll reduce the script writing time, but then because I have 5 different like branches of every sentence that branch off of each other sentence, I end up with like 50 alternate realities that I'm trying to edit into a linear thing in the edit. So that takes a lot longer for me personally.
Yeah, that's where I've gotten good at. I will actually only keep the last take usually. So in that sense, I don't need as much connective tissue because I just do the whole paragraph basically like 5 million times. And then I only keep the last one. So
so you're saying the whole thing over and over and over again, not just
I mean, I don't say
sentence.
like the whole thing, but it's really like chunks of sentences to the point where because when you do one sentence at a time, you start sounding like a robot, like the inflection like it like starts going all over the place. So I try to do it in runs, like a couple sentences, and I don't care if it takes me like 15 times to do that line. By the time I've done the 15 times, it's so easy to say that line that I can then connect that chunk with the first sentence of the next chunk, because it's like it's like so easy to say.
So is your process like you have an outline first and then you immediately go into like working with the camera? And that kind of be your script writing process?
I mean, if I were to give advice to someone else, I would probably say that that's how I would suggest doing it. But right now I do a lot of that in my head. I sort of have very loose bullet points. And then I just do the whole script, like brute force, like at the camera. And then I will sometimes after that, then sit on it and then refilm the whole video. But the second time I refilm the video is so easy because I've like done those lines so many times, and then I like fix certain sections here and there. But
because your videos are super well organized, like they seem like they're very like intentional. Step A leads to step B leads to step C. Like there's no wasted sentences.
I'm actually trying to add more wasted sentences because it's taking a little bit too long to make some of these videos sometimes. But the But I will say, so one thing that stood out to me from what you did say, though, was about the changing your thesis statements and tangents.
Yeah. Can I throw some more color on that real quick? So I think I realized when I changed my thesis, a lot of the times it comes from me realizing like another title would fit this content way better. So it's like I have a bunch of content that's about like this next one is like the loneliness of coronavirus. Right. And so originally the title was going to be something like, how do you be resilient? And it's like, oh my God, this would make such a cool title of like, how to survive a social recession. Because I start talking about this is actually not just a financial recession, it's a social recession, right?
Yeah. That sounds like something my friend Kevin would say.
And I don't know if that's going to be the final title either. I might think of something better or realize
that's a good one.
Thanks. And so every time I think of a better title, I realize, oh my God, in order to keep retention, I have to make sure that it reflects the title perfectly.
Totally.
And so it's really weird. It's kind of like this chicken and egg thing where you can't perfect the title enough until the edit's done. And then the edit can't be done until the title's perfect. And, it's kind of confusing that way.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the part of the video I always spend the most time with, reworking the most, it's always the intro. Wanting for it to be concise and clear and on track with the promise or intrigue or question set up in the title. So it's like you're clarifying the core question, and then that like changes the rest of the video, right?
Yeah. Oh wow, that's interesting. So if you like clarify the title correctly, the rest of the video is just supporting that, and so it shouldn't really require that much rewriting. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. Which is why I actually don't do this perfectly, but I'm really careful about trying to know very clearly what the core question is before I start making the video. If I can say in one sentence or an interesting sentence what the core question is, and when I say core question, it's not like, how do you start a business? How do you have a clear YouTube channel? It's more something that actually needs to be explored. So for instance, if it was like vulnerability versus oversharing, I talk about like, yes, it is about what's the difference between vulnerability and oversharing, but I also wanted to know, why is it that sometimes when you're vulnerable, it feels like you are burdening other people, and other times you are vulnerable and it feels super empowering, and that was like the healthy cleansing thing to do, right? What
That's
is the distinction there, right? That's the core question I would want to explore in that video. And when I can call that out really clearly in the beginning of the video, then one, it's really fun to unpack that in the video, but also it helps me write the title way easier. And I don't run into as many like, does this random anecdote actually help? Or like, does this random, because the core question is so specific, it's not just about vulnerability in general, it's about this one problem.
That's so cool.
Then when you can call it out, it's easier to get rid of those tangents.
Yeah, that's good.
My red flags are when I have too many core questions in the beginning of the video, or when I can't say it in one sentence. And it has to be specific. Like, it can't just be like, how to make better videos or something like that. It has to be like really get to something deeper. That's specific. Yeah.
And that's before you write anything at all. It's like, what's the core question?
Right, because the core question is, what problem am I solving, right?
Yeah.
If you don't know what problem you're solving, like it could go in a bazillion different directions, because we have lots of knowledge and experience and perspectives and opinion. Like, it's normal for you to be rambly if you don't know what problem you're addressing.
Oh yeah. Do you write your titles before you do that, or after you figure out the core question?
I mean, recently I've been trying to do the title first, and that's actually really helped, because again, the title is almost like the proof that you know the core question really well.
Whoa.
But I mean, I'm not perfect at that. That's pretty hard to perfect. Because then you have to take it to the next level where it's like, okay, I know the core question, I know how to title it. How can I make this title even better?
I like that though, because you're encapsulating that whole video script into just the question. So you don't have to rewrite the script, you're just rewriting the question. And if you can iterate quickly on that, it saves you so much time, I think.
True. Yeah. And it's also like, the more you know the question, the easier it is for you to write the title, because you sort of know the depth of it. Like, the only way that you can package your core question into something that's a compelling title is if you know who exactly it's for, if you know why it's meaningful to the other person on the other side of the camera, and if you know like what their perspectives, their pain points are. That's when you're like, oh, I know what would get them to click. There was one video where I talk about adding a discovery process and curiosity and wonder into your video, and how that's really, really important if you have a YouTube channel. Yeah. I could either title my video, How to Tell a Better Story on YouTube. That is a horrible title. So I call that a level 1 title, where it's like a tutorial. It's really boring. It's really predictable. And you're sort of doing a coin flip if it's going to pop up in search, right? Not even a coin flip, like a roulette. Like level 2 title would be more personal, like you're talking to a human. You need to add why you need to add a story to your YouTube channel, right? That's okay. It's more personal, but you're spoiling your whole video.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not interesting to click on. A level 3 title, which is one of the ones that I went with, was just like, why no one's binging your YouTube videos. That you have to click on to find out. It speaks to a specific pain point, and it's also like connecting the problem you're solving. Like, it's not just about telling a better story on YouTube. It's not just about adding a story to your YouTube channel. The reason that's meaningful is because you want people binging your YouTube videos, because binging your YouTube videos is a metric of how much people are connecting with your content, sharing your content, like emotionally invested in your content. And that's why it's awesome for you to add these ingredients into your YouTube channel, right? So the reason that clicky title came, like where that came from, is from an understanding of the problem and why it's meaningful to the actual creators on the receiving end, right? A million people could tell you why you need to tell a better story on YouTube. But by packaging it in that way, you're sort of showing that you are excited about the topic, you know about the topic, you understand their problems, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I feel like I'm watching an Eric Wen video inside of an Eric Wen video.
What was the last piece? The the process part. I don't think it's realistic to be like, there's a perfect system where I just do one draft of the script and then I say it on camera. You know, like that's not possible. But what you can do is start noticing the things that don't matter as much. So at some point, if you did a video where you didn't have any of the animations and you could see how that still worked, you could see how a video where you still have the ums and pauses in it and it still works. You could do a video that's 2 minutes long and it still works. You could do a video that's 20 minutes long and it still works. You start noticing the things that matter like less and more.
Yeah.
That will really help you out. The other thing is, there's all these inefficiencies in our rhythms. So like I always get the best ideas when I'm in the shower or driving, when the exact times when like I can't pull out my phone and take notes, right? Or whenever I like set aside a chunk of time to film my videos, that's like always when I'm least motivated or inspired to make a video. So I've sort of created systems where I can catch the random ideas when they come. So after the shower, after the whatever, like I create patterns of where I will just sit down at the computer and jot down everything. Or if it's in the car, I will turn on voice memos and just start talking. Yeah. Creating more space for me to not create when I don't want to create.
Whoa.
So when
there's a concept.
Right. So when I don't want to do work, when I'm not inspired to do work, I find some other things to fill that time, like client work or cleaning my room or cooking or something, instead of like trying to brute force, like punish myself into making the video, right?
Yeah.
Make it. And then the times when I do feel inspired, maybe it's like 10 p.m., midnight, whatever, I let myself actually do it. That's very much oversimplifying it, but listening to your natural rhythms, I think, is really nice for one, being just nicer to yourself in general, not being as judgmental to yourself, but also like there's so many inefficiencies if you try to systematize the wrong things, or if you don't have a system for the most important things.
Yeah, well said, well said.
I mean, I've been really liking the direction of your YouTube channel recently. It's very cohesive. They're have a specific feeling you get at the end of every video.
Like boredom.
No.
Or regret. Why did I watch this video?
No. I think that the through line, the more and more you strip down the videos, the more and more you're in the videos. Like everything you've been doing is so just like, that's so Kevin. I don't know.
I hope that's good. That's interesting that you say that. What do you mean by like when I strip down the stuff, it's more me? Do you mean that it's just when I don't put as much like random B-roll in there, like animations? Like it's just me talking to the camera?
I think it's more about like what's the heart of your videos, right? So the heart of your videos is you, and it's your struggle, discovery process. You're sorting through certain feelings and growing up and processing all that stuff. And your way of learning about it is to share, is to connect with others, is to figure out the science of it. And that's a cathartic thing for you. The more you show your self on camera, the easier it is to connect with that heart piece.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I've been actually trying to figure that out strategically. My theory is that like really in order to grow a channel, like you have to assume that you're making content for people who don't know who you are, right? And so it's like the only way to grow is like to find strangers. And so I'm like, my hypothesis is that people find more value when it's sort of this produced content that doesn't have your face in it from the beginning if they don't know you. And it's like once they know you, then kind of having that like personal face stuff in there. Like Mr. Beast videos, right? Like he talks about how right in the beginning, he just says like, this is the experiment, this is what we're doing, you know, and he never introduces himself in his videos. He never says, hey guys, welcome back. Like every single video he does is purely aimed at a new audience. And I think
that's because, yeah, well, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah. So basically I think there's a place for that kind of in, you know, the second half of the video or something. Like once they've watched through and you know you have that retention, right?
Well, I just think that if you watch Mr. Beast's video, you shouldn't take away that he's not talking about himself. Like that's not the takeaway. The takeaway is if you promise something in your title, deliver, right? Like really quickly. On one of my videos, I talked about sharing an external struggle versus an internal struggle. Mr. Beast's videos are all external challenges. So that's why he opens with that and he doesn't talk about his feelings. Internal struggles are about the creator and their journey and their process and their struggles and their weaknesses and all that sort of stuff. So in that sense, it makes sense to open up with a human being. Everyone who clicks a YouTube video, unless it's like a box video, you know that you're hearing someone else's perspective on that topic. You know you're clicking, going down the river with someone else, some other creator's internal struggle and seeing if you can learn from it. I wouldn't say like the great animations are detracting from your videos. I think that that's like a great indication of how much you care about it and how much like experience and thoughtfulness you have on the topic. But people will always connect with a human being more than anything, especially with your type of content, right? So like in the video I'm supposed to be editing right now, I'm talking like at the end of the day, creator, you subscribe to a channel based on how that channel makes you feel. So, I mean, your face, people will feel nice. People will feel nice things when they see your face. And I mean, your stuff is...
Sorry, one last thing, if that's okay. Do you have like a mental filter of like when you should just discard a thought and just be like, I shouldn't even go down this rabbit hole? Like if you only have 500 words.
I don't think about it in terms of words, but that's because we have different systems. But my measure is that if the core question hasn't been like properly teased and set up and all that sort of stuff by 70 seconds, there's a big problem. So about a minute 10 is the sweet spot of like how much rambling anecdotal time you get.
I like that.
To blabber on and set up your idea. And then whenever I'm thinking of an anecdote or an example, like it should be short. Like a 3-minute story, it's not the time for that.
Or sometimes I'll do something like for this video, right? There's like a scientific theory that sort of helps to set up the problem.
Right.
So it's like, should I just say, here's a problem, let's move on? Or should I say, here's a problem, this is why it's a problem, and then move on? And like, that takes up an extra minute. It's like, should I even go ahead and write that? Because then I have to explain more stuff.
Like, it is fine to be expansive. Like, it doesn't all need to be tightening up. But trying to keep it timely is really important. And sometimes that's by actually literally condensing things down, like 3 minutes to 1 minute. But sometimes it's also just by having rhythm breaks where you call things out. Like, as long as there's something new happening, or you say stuff like, this is really important, or like, this is what, like when you did your exercise, right? In the last video where it's like, I want you guys to do something, close your eyes, and whatever. Like, that's something new. So it doesn't really matter how long that takes, because you've sort of like opened up this new little thing, and people understand that it has a time limit. People get freaked out when you start bringing in stories and they have no idea when it's going to end.
Yeah.
Right? So as long as, like, if it's an exercise, if it's an analogy, if it's a like brief aside, people understand that it's supportive and it has a time limit.
Yeah.
So they're fine going on this tangent with you. It's when you do an open-ended question or an open-ended, you know, story, when people start to go like freak out. You know, they're like, oh no, like this is
oh no, you started talking again.
yeah. Yeah. So just figuring out how to capture people's attention again with takeaways and exercises and analogies and stuff that's more direct, or like it's a storytelling version of pay attention to this right here. Like you could have forgotten. Yeah, like there's 3 moments you need to pay attention to. This, and this. Like setting up systems in your videos to actually do that will really help.
If you made it all the way to this clip, oh my gosh, thank you so much for your time. I hope it was helpful. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to see this longer form content more often. And if you haven't yet already, down in the description there's a link to sign up for a newsletter. Every 3 to 6 weeks or so, I'm going to be sending out an extra in-depth resource that might not be the right fit for this YouTube channel, but for those wanting more, wanting to go more in depth, watching to the end of these videos, my hope is that it could really help you out. The first extra resource is going to get sent out this week. You are the change maker of your own life. Let's think more deeply. I'll see you guys in the next normal video. Peace, peace.